Well, I could be taking a huge risk here today. It's you can see very grey clouds over there to the east. Off the coast there's a huge amount of rain, but I didn't want to take the bus if I could avoid it. I wanted to have another walk, and it's actually quite cool. The weather's great as far as walking is concerned. It's cool, but I'm just worried I'm going to get drenched, so we'll see how we go. There is a bit of cover along the creek, so that's good. But my problems are minor compared to what's happening in the US, where I believe that basically democracy is at the crossroads. It may actually be the end of democracy in the US. That's why I've been pushing online for the low taxing states in the US to seriously consider moving towards a secession situation from the US, because I can't see these other states, the ones such as New York and California, reforming. I think they're rotten to the core. They're basically compromised by corporate fascism, because you know what the corporates are doing lately with Jeff Bezos's Amazon basically shut down a free speech outlet called Parler, and because Parler was using Amazon's servers. But what's even more insidious is that the places like banks, like Chase Manhattan Bank, is notorious for basically discriminating against conservatives, and they're doing it again. And half-wits like AOC are pushing for people making lists of conservatives, the people who actually supported the riots in Washington. She probably has absolutely no knowledge of the McCarthy era. I mean, she's not the brightest spark around, and she's pretty well representative of a lot of the youth these days. Here, check out, there's a plane going up in the grey. It's amazing they can fly in virtually any weather. But yeah, the people like her, she's an embarrassment, but she has real power now. As a matter of fact, I think she's the reason Pelosi is still in control of the House of Reps, because Pelosi must have bent her knee to the far left of the Democrats. And now you've got a situation. This happens all the time. Always people turning into this road. And the far left of the Democrats are basically controlling the party that used to be sort of middle of the road. Now they're just left-wing fanatics. They're so close to communism the way they're talking. Biden will be an absolute disaster. I'm absolutely convinced of that, and he will be in power officially in 3 days. And I think that the America's going to go downhill. I think it's interesting because I think China's also in a pretty precarious position. So two of the supposed superstars of the global economies, I think, are both in dire straits. I think these countries are have real problems, and the economies are going to suffer badly, which could lead to major social unrest. That's the thing that will happen in the US if the policies are as disastrous as I think they'll be. Then jobs will go and people will get very restless. But you know, making up lists is unbelievable. And they're not the only ones. Chase Manhattan Bank, by the way. There's a whole group of corporates now who are basically becoming corporate fascists. They're making up lists of undesirable customers, no-fly lists. This is all stuff very reminiscent of what's happening in China, and it's happening in the States. And that's why I really seriously believe that it's time that Texas get together with these other low taxing states and draft a new constitution which basically just puts a lot more safeguards of free speech in there, and also doesn't allow big tech to have the dominance it has. Big tech is so dominant now that even overseas countries are starting to complain about their power. So I think the honeymoon's over for big tech. As far as I'm concerned, they've compromised the last election. There's no doubt about that. But now that the left own the media, there's no one that can complain apart from independent producers online, for instance. I must admit, I'll also say one thing. I've been watching Tucker Carlson, even though I was very dismayed that he stayed with Fox. I've got to say he seems to have stuck with his own integrity as far as his content is concerned. The editorial content on his show, he seems to be pretty well on message, and he was making a scathing assessment of Jeff Bezos in the last episode I saw. I'm a few episodes behind on Tucker Carlson, but I'll catch up. And no, he's spot on. And of course he always has on my favourite historian, who is Victor Davis Hanson. He's an amazing intellect, and with the average man touch. And Tucker says he's the most intelligent guest he has on. I tend to agree with him. He's got a lot of time for Victor Davis Hanson, and so do I love watching him speak. You can get his speeches online quite easily, and I would recommend them to anybody. The guy is spot on. He provides an alternative to the garbage that's being taught at universities. He's an academic himself. I think he teaches at Hillside College, and where he teaches is part of the privileged part of California, but where he lives is actually in a rural farming community where there's a lot of Hispanics and Mexicans who have come over the border and made a new life for themselves there. He says it's a totally different scene compared to where the pillars of power are in California, which is, the major big cities and Sacramento. So it's interesting, the dichotomy. But yeah, I'm sorry, I really do worry about the future of democracy in what was up until now the bastion of democracy in the world. It's a very sad situation, and if the only way you can shake these people up is by basically breaking away from the United States, whether it be 10 or 15 states that decide to basically form a separate entity, another country, that's the thing that will really freak out the people in Washington, because then they'll lose power over them. That's the thing they're all about. They're all about total power, which if you have total power, then you can be totally corrupt. And I think there's absolutely no doubt that there are many politicians who are on the take in the US. It's not to say it doesn't happen here either in Australia. One thing we do have, though, at least we have electoral integrity. We have the Australian Electoral Commission, a federal body overseeing the elections, whereas in the states, the individual states themselves seem to have a lot more power, and it's been a disaster in my opinion. Oh, well, I've covered about a third of the distance of the walk, and I'm feeling okay, which is good, because I was a bit concerned that maybe I wouldn't have the energy levels to do this again, because I haven't been walking much, and I've cut back on my food intake, which is good, but I'm also having far less exercise. Mind you, the weather has been pretty bad up here in the last few weeks. Very, very wet. So, got to keep that in mind as well. Not the best weather to go outside, although at the moment it's quite pleasant walking along the Louis Creek. Oh boy. Very quiet. I've only come across 2 people so far, and I think they're just neighbours yakking. I just happen to be standing in the pathway. I think they're just probably locals living near the path. And but I'll take the bus back to the city and do some shopping once I've had my appointment. But it's around 9 o'clock, just before 9 o'clock right now. Very quiet. It's quite nice. course, Lily Creek has got plenty of water in it. Yeah, you should see how much rain there is off the coast. It's quite amazing, but luckily it's just hovering off the coast. It could come back inland. Hopefully not, but we'll see. Before I get back home, that is. I'm being selfish. Oh dear. Yeah, look at those lilies. Lily Creek by name and Lily Creek by nature. Quite prolific. They must love this environment, nice and warm and moist. Perfect for vegetation growth, I guess. Yeah, well, I'm holding up okay on the walk. I'm very happy about this. It's just much easier for me to walk to where the hospital is compared to taking the bus. I've got to change buses. It's a bit of a hassle. And this is probably about the same time because you don't have to worry about changing, although there'll be plenty of buses going up towards the hospital. Although the last time I got a bus back from the hospital to Central, I had to wait for about 10-15 minutes. It's quite extraordinary because there's quite a few routes that go down that road, down Lake Street. So, well, that's public transport for you. I can hear them in the background. There's cicadas. I've had a lot of them lately. Yeah, they're loving the environment too. I did just see another person come onto the pathway too, by the way, but I haven't seen one bike rider, which is very unusual. Although there might be one coming right now. That could be a bike rider there. I think it is. Yeah, I think you can see the pedals. Oh no, they're running. Okay. No bikes though. Not one bike rider. Hi. Yeah, pretty keen on the exercise, that girl. But like I say, it's actually quite good because it's cool. It's a good time to... Oh, there's someone else jogging as well. Well, there you go. Please consider subscribing to my channel if you think there's anything there of use to you or entertainment or whatever. And either do that or give me a thumbs up, or if you're feeling really energetic, do both. That'd be great.